You have to say sometimes elevator. How would you explain how you that an elevator? Like, and then the elevator at five. The elevator at like, yeah. It's just, I could probably joke with this. I'm not sure exactly what to do. Did you ever insure either foot cancer? Well, you know, so you have an injury, and fear, and all those things.
What happened to the other 30
I didn't functionally integrate.
Where's the rest of it?
The functional integration.
The other 37 seconds.
Oh, it was too fast. We were just going down on the floor. No, just. So, but you know, it's interesting. Injury, ankle, so you favored here, soon, shoulder goes down. Extending like this, spirit wake up in the morning. Here. But it's what I've been saying. And that is a good skill. That is a good airline. Oh, I didn't turn it on. But you got that on tape, right? 60 seconds.
Good. Thanks, Jenny. Oh, that's much better. All right. Anyway. But that is a good verbal entry into, we're getting a little ahead because you haven't been asked to do this, but you know, you're talking to somebody and you think, oh, they're not going to be interested in awareness, or oh, they're not going to be interested in law. You know, these things we tell ourselves about why people wouldn't be interested instead of saying why everybody would be interested. It's probably Jenny's job to do all this professional development with you. But at any rate, huh?
Until the rest of the world.
Okay. You're carrying it. You are carrying it. Now, but that wasn't a good entry point when I said well, you're a ballerina. Did you ever injure anything? How many ballerinas do you know that didn't injure something? 0, probably. Very small percentage. So, you know, I had high probability on my side that she would say that she'd injured something. You know, and it's so interesting because as a child, maybe you injure, well, it's kind of like the story I told about falling out of a tree, right? That could be a good example. Well, you know, as a child, you fall out of a tree and then you break hurt your shoulder, and then years later, you find the ankle on that side, and then you wake up one morning with a stiff neck and you think it's something different, but actually it's all related. Well, that's what we're doing in Feldenkrais, is we're unraveling that whole pattern of things that people, have I convinced you yet? You're saying them to make contact. All right. Yeah. Okay. Now, but how did I get off on that? Oh, 60-second FI demo. All right. Let's move on. So, yeah. Oh, I remember my original point. I didn't finish my coffee yet, so my brain is, things are it's not it's not connecting through. It starts and then so my original point was that an FI? And you said moments. And then I said, yeah, it could be in a moment. All right. So why is it an FI? Or this isn't going to be a long discussion. This will be short. But first of all, was it interesting to do that much with somebody, like from standing, looking at something, and then taking it into the floor and then coming back? Did they change? How many people's partners changed in their turning from the beginning to the end? Okay. And how many of you were able to feel differences in the movement of the shoulder and the hip on one side versus the other? Okay. Now, to ask you to be able to see differences in the beginning and correlate it to what you feel and see it at the end, that demand would be more appropriate if you had done the same practice several times. I think for the first practice, that's a high demand. So you come in wherever you come in. You saw something, you felt something, great. Any distinction in the beginning we'll call learning. But if you do it like 5 times every day in a row, or maybe it takes 10 times, I don't know how many times these things take, but over time you can see more and you can feel more. I mean, I think there's not much more to say. Now, all right, so that was taking, let's say, as an analogy, let's say that these are words. Let's say shoulder forward is one word and hip forward and back is another word. And then we made some sentences. We combined a few words together and we made a sentence. And the sentence was about turning, rotating. It could have been about rotating backward, rolling. It could have been about standing and turning. It could have been about a few different things. And maybe it would need more elements in it to feel more complete. But whatever we do in ATM, I mean, whatever we do with our hands, the way I like to explain it, Glenn, and this might be a new sentence. You let me know if you've heard it explained this way before, is whatever it is, the elements things we're doing with our hands, what we're talking to the person about, those things need to be coherent for that person's nervous system. There needs to be a coherence. And so they have some way that they go together that relates to functional movement. So it's not just, do smush and then smush, smush things around and then say, oh, you look more loose. That's usually what people do in the beginning, if left to their own devices. Okay? So just like we wanted to organize the discussion this morning, we want to kind of organize what we think we're communicating to that nervous system that could have coherence, right, for them. So, because this is a whole other thing, but everybody's nervous system finds a way to make meaning out of the things that come into it, and no matter how cuckoo it is. So if you do a cuckoo FI, if you do shoulder, big toe, if you're there on the side and you do right shoulder and then you go down, you pull the left big toe and start twiddling it, internally that person will be searching, what is the relationship between my shoulder?
Things happen, we make connections, we make meaning.
That's right.
Happen in FI, that's how we do.
That's right. So, and that's why you adjust also to a cuckoo childhood. And it seems normal to you until you meet other children and you find out, oh, you mean your parents don't do this or that? Or, oh, I thought the whole world was cuckoo like inside my house. But no. Anyway, we won't go there. But you make meaning out of it. You make coherence out of it, no matter how crazy it is. Right? So, present company excluded. I'm sure you all had great childhoods. I think I was thinking about some of my American friends that I know, but yeah. They don't have childhoods in America. Well, now they don't because they're all too busy studying piano and, they're overscheduled. I mean, these poor kids, they're just, huh?
Play dates.
They don't have play dates, no. They just
How
take,
many more they got?
they just take a lot of lessons and things. Well, anyway, so shoulder, big toe. So it's also true in FI in a way that the sequence of what you say, if you start with the pelvis and you move the pelvis forward and back, and then you go to the shoulder, or in ATM, on some level, the brain is looking for a way to relate something to what comes after. It's looking for that connection. Not necessarily in words, but this kind of thing goes on. Okay, so everything that we had to do, you could say, had to do with turning. We didn't do the egg beater thing. We didn't do all that. That, in a way, has a lot more to do with the actual function of the arm, function of the shoulder, which I want to go back to today. And I'm just trying to make a division between different things I've shown you so that you don't necessarily throw them all together in the pot. Okay. Is it, yeah?
Just sometimes when people do ATM, they'll go into the next variation or the next movement in the ATM, like before you've given the instruction.
Yeah, it's a logical
body logic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's similar.
Yeah. Well, that means they have that means they feel themselves, you know. All right, so I want to go back to something, and maybe some of you can use this with your children. This would be good things for children, and I'm going to show you now. Let's see what sort of. When did I take you, Fiona? Have you had you had a lesson yesterday, right? But okay. But today's today. I haven't talked to you the whole time I've been here. How's it going? I've left you alone. See, I'm capable of leaving people alone. She can, right? Totally left you alone. Just want you to know that I know that I've left her alone. All right. I don't pick on 100% of the people. So I haven't talked to you. I don't know too much about your shoulders, but let's see. Stand up for a second. I do know your name. I know that much. Okay. Anything about, do you have any difficulties with anything in your?
Oh, just a sore shoulder and lower back.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
And it's this shoulder?
Yep.
Okay. So you can you see that this shoulder is in a different, if we were giving her a scan, and talking about distances between things, we would see that one shoulder is lower, one shoulder is higher, yeah? You don't know that about yourself yet. You haven't had that scan. We haven't been doing enough scans in here. Okay. So visually, can you see that? Okay. So, well, that could be a different ATM, but it means that there's something here that's shortening and working more than on this side. Look, did you find in the head circles that the bending was easier this way than the other way? Yeah, because this is your, see, that's that shortening. Okay. All right. Well, lie, and so when you go to bed at night, would you lie on your long side, the left?
Yeah, most
Okay, so that's a good way to start. Also, when you start in FI with people, you say, what side do you like to lie on when you go to sleep at night? And they will almost, in every case, they're going to pick the long side to be on the bed and the short side to be curling up, right? Because you lie in most people lie in a little bit of a side bending. So go ahead, lie on your comfortable side. And let's get a little higher. No, you're good. Let's get her more of a head pad. Okay. So whoever lies on the table, their comfort is paramount. So we want to make sure she's independent. She was willing to do it for herself, but let's try that one. But I want to have it nice for her. Let's see, lift again. This might be too high, but let's see. Does it feel too high? Okay. I think let's try. This is too low though. Well, all right. Somewhere in between those two, just a little bit for me. That's nice of you. I do like that one. I like anything that doesn't have wheels on it. Now, lift your. Is that the, what is it, the Goldilocks, and then that's just right. Okay.
I'm not carrying it.
No, don't go that far, please. Okay. Well, what you could do, Fiona, though, is you could, now that we've got you comfortable, but you could come all the way as close to the, because as close as we can, because then I don't have to lean so far forward. So we had an example yesterday, and we're going to go on again with this idea of degrees of differentiated or undifferentiated. Now, let's say for instance, just for the heck of it, that we were in Turkey now, and this did happen to me once, and she was Turkish and I was American, and I don't speak Turkish and she doesn't speak American English, but somebody told me there's some kind of problem with her shoulder, but she can't talk to me about it, right? So I need to be able to find out what the arm can do, what the shoulder can do that's safe for her. So if I start, let's say I start with a big movement like this, and actually that's not great for her, but she also wasn't ready for it. But I mean, how do I know that the arm is free enough in the joint to go back like that? And she can't tell me, right? Just for example, if you think that we're learning to feel things that they themselves can't tell us because they don't really know. Or, okay, so I'm not going to start the FI like that. Or I start the FI like that and I go, whoa, that was she wasn't ready for that at all. So I pull it back. So let's start with something that's a very undifferentiated movement that will take the shoulders back, which would be that I would put her hand on her chin. I have my hand around the C7 upper spine, and I very gently, I can shift my weight, take the head, the shoulder, and the spine, and I turn to the right. So let's say I want to end up being able to do this fancy movement with the arm behind, maybe, but I start completely undifferentiated.
Is your forearm touching the back?
Oh, it doesn't need to be. But really, it's almost like I could have my hand a little bit on the shoulder, but what I'm saying is this whole unit is turning, and there's absolutely no movement of her upper arm in her shoulder joint. And there isn't a lot of, what else isn't there? I mean, it's just kind of like the easiest demand I can think of. And she felt, right away you felt you could close your eyes and listen. I don't know if you like to close your eyes usually, but she just went right in because for us, well, you'll see these different things are really interesting to experience because the undifferentiated movement takes us back to a simpler time before the complexity of life and all the responsibilities. And, when we go back, we regress in a way, or not to say regress, but the undifferentiated movement in our brain, in our nervous system, in our muscles, it takes us back to a simpler time. And for you, and now I do have my hand a little bit on the neck, but it's just kind of supporting her. It's just a nice feeling, isn't it? It's a very nice feeling. Okay, so that's number one. Now, number two, I'm going to put my hand on her just on her breastbone and take her. And now the shoulder blade is moving. So it's the beginning of the scapula moving. It's still not a lot of differentiation. Her spine is turning all kind of in the same direction. But also just putting my hand, there's a few different things. Putting my hand on the sternum lets her know that the middle of her chest can move. But also, it's, again, developmentally, both this position, and the third. I think I'll just give you, I don't know, I'll give you 3 or 4. And this position, which now has more movement in her neck, I want you guys to actually feel the difference in these 3 things. But none of them is asking for much here. None of these. But all 3 of these positions are going back, beginning with having a limb come up through the midline. Have you discussed this at all? Okay. So if we look, Charlie's not here, but if we looked at Charlie's baby, 7 weeks old, in the beginning, everything is, there's a lot of stuff about bringing the limbs up through midline. The eyes are kind of focused toward midline. The hands come to the mouth through midline. You don't see a baby do what Moshe did in the tape yesterday, scratch their head like this, right? Take the arm like this. There's a lot of everything's organized toward the midline. That's one of the earliest stages. So when we go back, there's nothing I've done with Fiona in these 3 movements. This has a little bit of movement of your neck now, and the shoulder is starting to be. And by the way, once the shoulder blade is back there, actually, now, look, if I take your arm back, it's much lighter, isn't it? So once the shoulder's back, now I can move the arm, it's much lighter. All right, I think just those 3 things for you to feel. But the idea is really important. So when somebody has an injury, this would have been a nice thing for you. I did something else with you instead. But I mean, this also, you communicate with the person in such a way that it's an easy demand on their nervous system. And this is the beginning, actually, I said, those of you that have kids with challenges, I mean, first of all, it's just, well, you'll try it and you'll tell me maybe what happens. But it's simple, it's undifferentiated, and it's the beginning of how we learn to bring our hand to our mouth or to use the arm, or it's part of the building blocks of all that, but much simpler. Okay, shoulder. Instead of taking a child who doesn't feel the connection of their arm to their spine, to their chest, anything, and make them do something out here with their fingers. It's cuckoo. It's actually pretty cuckoo, right? Fine motor. We were talking about it, some of us. You do fine motor when they don't have an arm, they don't have a connection to the spine, whatever it is. All right, nice, huh? Feels nice. Good. All right, we won't worry about yeah. Yeah. So the first is to put we can do it together, just sitting. So the first is to put the hand on the chin and turn everything together. It's really good if I shift my weight. So I have her contained. I mean, Julie made me kind of hyper aware of my forearms. But so this is another example where I'm moving her in an undifferentiated way, like, I'm not doing all sorts of, I've got a lot of her in my hands. But her spine is turning. So I'm holding just very lightly here. I'm just holding enough places that she doesn't have to be busy worrying about anything. So that's one. Hand on the chin, but I help her forehead move. I help the C7 area. We'll do more later today about C7, but just your best guess for now. And I shift my weight just a little bit so that I keep my, because otherwise if I do this, it's interesting, isn't it? It just goes right in your neck now, doesn't it, Fiona? You feel? I don't have your whole self, do I? All I did was just move her with my arms and not have myself lined up, and it didn't work. It just all went into there, and she had to think about it because it didn't feel nice. Here, I'm all the way down there. Okay, 1. Did I do the forehead next? 2. Now there's more movement of the shoulder blade. You'll feel the difference. And 3, shoulder blade, neck. And actually it's the beginning, because once she goes that far, it wouldn't be much to continue like that. Okay, all right, have fun. Feel it'll take you right out of your dip. For those of you that are little, yeah, walk around. It's restful, isn't it? Yeah. I might take you more at some point. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see how we go with it.